Hey guys, Zor here from ZorGameGeek.com. I'm here today to talk to you about running games in the Savage Worlds role-playing game system. I just posted an article at ZorGameGeek.com/Savage Tips, 10 tips for running Savage Worlds. Today, I'm going to talk to you about one of those tips, and that is using the Bennies system. The Bennies are simply tokens, poker chips. That's what the game book calls for, is using poker chips, because Savage Worlds came out of the Deadlands, the Weird West role-playing system, and giving those out to your players. And at the start of each session, not adventure, not campaign, each session, each player gets 3 Benny chips, Benny tokens, whatever it is you're using at your game table. And at the end of that session, they turn in any unused Bennies. So it's use it or lose it. And with those Bennies, the players can do a number of different things. For example, they can use a Benny to re-roll a trait roll. So a trait roll is if you make an agilities check or an athletics check, it's an attribute or skill check. So you don't like your roll and you can re-roll it. You don't get to re-roll your wildcard dice, just your trait roll dice. So it's one of the dice you're rolling. You also can re-roll your damage dice, but you got to take that new result. You don't get to pick which ones you like. The other thing you can do is spend one to be able to soak damage that your character's taken. In Savage Worlds, when you take damage, when you take a wound, you immediately, for each wound, you have a wound penalty, -1 to all rolls after that. If you're at 2 wounds, -2, 3 wounds, -3. You go above 3 wounds, you're incapacitated and you're bleeding out. So it's important to try to soak those wounds as you're getting them. You hand your Benny to the Game Master and you make a Vigor check. So that's your Vigor die plus your D6 wildcard die. And if you ace it, you get the maximum on that die, you roll again, because you want at least a 4, because a 4 means that you're soaking one of those wounds, an 8 means you're soaking 2 wounds, and a 12 means you're soaking 3 wounds. If you soak all the wounds that damage dice does to you, then you obviously don't take any wounds, and even if you were previously shaken, you are now unshaken. Shaking in just a moment here. Now, with damage dice, they can ace. They can keep on exploding and effectively do 10 wounds to you. Now, at 3, you're just incapacitated, but your soak roll has to beat all 10 of those wounds. So you have to get all those same amount of raises the original damage roll did to you to be able to soak those wounds. The other thing you can do is to get rid of the shaken condition. Now, shaken is typically if you take 4 damage on a damage dice, because your toughness is on average of 4, then you're shaken. You haven't taken a wound yet, but if you get another shaken result, you now take a wound. But shaken just basically means you can't take any actions. You're woozy, you're befuddled, you're winded, whatever that is, and you can make a spirit roll at the start of your turn to become unshaken. And if you fail that roll, you can spend a Benny to immediately get rid of that shaken result, and you can take your full actions that round. Another thing you can do with initiative, because if you've seen my video on initiative, then you get playing cards. And if you don't like the cards you have, you can hand a Benny to the Game Master and they deal you another card, and you can pick which one you want to use. You also can use your Bennies to regain 5 power points. You hand it and you get your power points back. Now, power points are used for casting and spells. Savage Worlds does not use the fancy and magic spell slot system of Dungeons & Dragons. It uses a power point system. You have a certain number of points, and spells cost certain points to cast, and when you're out of points, you can't cast anymore, and those points kind of regenerate slowly over time, and you need a quick infusion. You hand that Benny, and you get 5 power points. Also, you can use them as sort of a fate chip, if you're familiar with the Fate role-playing game system, where you can change a plot element. You can change sort of the milieu or the reaction of somebody. It allows you to just make some story changes in the middle of the game. Probably not combat. That's going to be more your re-rolls. How do you get Bennies? Well, good role-playing. You should always be, the Game Master should always be handing out Bennies for good role playing, and also if the player really leans into their hindrances. Hindrances are these things in Savage Worlds that are these penalties, these quirks. I'm short, I'm tall, I'm an outsider, I have I have a deal with the Grim Reaper where I can do extra damage, but if I miss the target, I'm hitting an innocent bystander. These different things that give your character some flavor and depth, and if you really lean into that, the game encourages the game master to hand out bennies for that in exchange for accepting that penalty. The other way that you can get bennies, again, in combat, is if you get dealt a Joker. If you get dealt a Joker, not only do you get a +2 for all your actions that round, you get a free benny, as does everyone else at that table, all the other players. Now, the players aren't the other ones who get bennies. The game master gets bennies as well. He gets a benny for each player at that table, and he can use that anywhere he wants. And if there is a wild card, a non-player character, those are the more powerful types of characters that basically are modeled on the player characters, then that NPC, that wildcard NPC, gets 2 bennies for that combat that can only be used on themselves. The game master can't use that generally, but he can use that pool on that wildcard, but that wildcard can't be used on the pool. So there you have it. Those are bennies in the Savage Worlds role-playing game system. If you want to learn more about Savage Worlds and my 10 tips for running Savage Worlds, then please go to zorgamegeek.com/savagetips. Again, that is zorgamegeek.com/savagetips. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Keep gaming.